After months of searching, I was so happy to complete my PC build with the RTX 3080 that I got back in November 2020. Well, almost complete. I did need to put a water block on it to feel like everything in this build was full and done. And EKWB did finally release that block that I was waiting on. A little bit on the expensive side, but once I get this, it's all I need and I should be good to go, right? Nope. And like you saw in the title, I spent quite a bit more than that, about $800, and that was from my original just committing to spending $200 to get this water block. I didn't plan on getting anything else. It really got away from me. Ultimately, what ended up causing pretty much all of these problems was just the sheer size of this MSI Gaming Trio X. And then that's putting this EK block on it, which makes it a little bit longer, and especially the problem of wider. I originally was just putting all of this in my Lee & Lee Dynamic that I've been running for a while. It's a full tower, pretty good size, but it was sticking out like 2 centimeters extra from the side to where the side glass was absolutely not going back on there. So cool, my only option now is a brand new case, and it's not gonna be cheap. And that's where this big stupid thing comes into play, the giant Fantex 719. It says full tower, but I'm gonna call it a super tower because this is ridiculous. An excellent choice because I have this 480mm rad that I've never gotten to use because I've never had a case that could fit it, while also supposedly fitting this 360 somewhere. But I think the best quality here is that it was in stock and it wasn't gonna take over a month. Let's just add an extra $200 to that budget. And that's really where the journey begins, because that's on top of the $264 that I paid originally for the block, and then I got like, you know, just some accessories here and there. I didn't think I'd be paying any more. I splurged a little bit, you know, got a little bit of fun. Whoops, but just as everything was getting right back on track, my pump radiator combo started to go out, started failing on me. It just decided now was the time, I suppose. And not only do I need to replace what I had before, I do need to make sure that it's powerful enough to handle a 480 and a 360 CPU, GPU. It's the full thing. So I decided that I was gonna pick this bad boy up on eBay. I got a really, really sweet deal, only $158 added to the new budget. Okay, back from a little break that was needed. My eye was horribly bloodshot, and then in that time it got better, and then bloodshot again. So let's get into the CPU that broke. This sweet little piece right here. I was just cleaning it, making sure it was working. I was putting in just a plug to keep it from leaking as I was taking it out, and it just split right down the side there. Isn't that nice? Let's do another $110 for a frosted one. Because they were out of the acetal CPU block, I did have to go with this frosted version of the exact same thing. Still 110 bucks, but at least I got one. And to match that, I decided to go with something new, which was doing frosted matching tubes, or the satin tubes. Surprisingly simple, only cost me like 8 bucks. I got some sandpaper, and you just kind of, you do a very, very fine sand, and then you polish it, and we'll see. Probably gonna look terrible. We got 110 for that, 8 for the sandpaper. Why not just keep adding on more? I decided to also at the same time pick up some new fittings for the tips of my tubes. Tube tipping. They're a satin finish, unlike the black nickel that I typically do, but I've got a pack of 6 to kind of be the front liners here, and I think that they're actually gonna look pretty darn good. So at that point, I'm actually getting pretty close to having everything I need, well, as far as I know. Next, I just needed a DRGB header splitter for 9 bucks. And wouldn't you know it, this new case can hold 15 fans. My last one could only do 9. I had to take out the radiator that was in the top here that wouldn't fit in the bottom originally. There wasn't enough clearance up at the top for the 480mm rad over there. But back with the fans, I caught what was my first and what is likely to be my only break in this project, and that was I got contacted by GIM, and they wanted to send me some fans to review. I asked for 15. They would only send me 6, but I got the better ones that I wanted, and they're gonna help me finish this up. I ended up having to buy 3 more for 27 bucks, so not nearly as bad as the 120 it would have cost to get 2 more packs of the Pure Plus fans. Provided these work pretty well, that is a great savings of like 100 bucks on what I would have probably spent before. I'm coming up on like 800 bucks now, Jesus Christ. But now I gotta try and squeeze in a review right after this video for those sweet, sweet babies. So all that's left to do is put in the tubing, and I should be all set, which, as much of a struggle and how long this has taken already, the tubing is usually the most annoying and grueling part, so that's pretty frustrating, and I'm pretty unhappy to do that. I'm gonna do a quick montage of bending these tubes with some heat, and I'm gonna throw them in there, make sure it runs and looks pretty. We'll do a little highlight of everything put together. I'll throw it down there after that and just see how everything runs, see what kind of temperatures we're getting, and just kind of fade out. It'll just wander off slowly and then just suddenly. Having this PC look pretty cool is, it's great and all, but most important is how well is it playing the games and running the apps that I need it to. So I went ahead and went back to my the biggest mistake I've made in the last few months when I went back to playing World of Warcraft, and I threw everything on ultra settings, maxed it all out, and I wanted to see just how we were doing in the frames per second. And it averaged about 134 just through this kind of 30-minute section that I played. Pretty good. That's about I'd say between 10 and 15 frames per second higher than what I was running before. Even maxed out, the GPU was able to keep just under 50 degrees Celsius, around 47, 48. And to get this kind of performance before on stock cooler, I had to run these fans at like 90, 95%. So we are running really cool and really quiet. In Hitman 3, I was running ultra settings in 1440p, and I was able to hang right around 100 FPS on all the different maps. It definitely was hitting the GPU quite a bit harder than WoW was, but it was still pretty playable. I would like to kick those settings down to be able to get around 120 FPS. Otherwise, still a really good play. And if I had to compare this to what it was like before with the stock cooler, it's pretty much about the same, just the same thing as before, where the fans just didn't have to work nearly as hard, and that cut down the sound that was coming out of my PC by a ton. For the synthetic, I went over to my trusty Time Spy Extreme, and the highest temperature the GPU hit was just under 54 degrees Celsius. Not too bad, and I posted the highest number I've ever gotten, which is 8624. Excellent. And as many times as I ran it before, it was still about 500 more than the highest score that I've ever gotten. Ultimately, that's really not a huge increase and probably not worth all the money that I spent, but it is an increase, so there we go.